Hello, everyone. Welcome to the 21 Hats podcast. I'm your host, Lauren Feldman. This week, in episode 77, Jay Goltz and Diana Lee discuss the dangers of mixing entrepreneurship and parenting. Years ago, when Chris Rock was asked in an interview about his relationship with his children, he responded, "My kids are rich. I have nothing in common with them." Obviously, that's an extreme example, played for laughs by a comedian. But you don't have to be a celebrity to wonder about the differences between your upbringing and your kids' upbringing. As it happens, Jay and Diana were both raised in family businesses, but they offer contrasting thoughts on the challenges of raising a family and building a business at the same time. Plus, we also talk about what the upheaval in the auto industry means for Diana, how to think about the president's vaccine mandate, and whether Jay has resolved his crazy double billing problem with AT&T. Even in good times, owning and running a business can be a lonely pursuit. Our hope is that these weekly conversations will let owners know they are not alone in facing challenges. Same thing with our daily newsletter, the 21 Hats Morning Report, which highlights the most important news of the day for business owners, and which you can subscribe to at 21hats.com, where you can also find transcripts of our podcast episodes and lots of other articles and interviews. And please stick around at the end of the podcast for a new feature, Steve Krull's Marketing Minute. Joining me this week on the podcast are regulars Jay Goltz, whose companies in Chicago include a picture frame business, Artist Frame Service, and a home furnishing store, Jason Home, and Diana Lee, who is CEO of Constellation Agency, a New York-based digital marketing firm. The episode is titled, "Can an Entrepreneur Raise an Entrepreneur?" Welcome, Jay and Diana. Can an entrepreneur raise an entrepreneur? Jay, what do you think?
I only obviously have my own sampling of three children who are now 39, 36, and 31. And I believe that it is largely genetic. One of my kids is extremely entrepreneurial. One of them is largely entrepreneurial, and the other one doesn't seem to be entrepreneurial at all. Whatever that word, well, I'll have to define that, meaning taking risk, being optimistic, seeing things as opportunities instead of problems. I don't know that it's something that you can inspire or teach to a kid. I think there's many other parenting issues, as like just how do you navigate running a business when you're trying to raise kids. That's a whole nother thing. Are we going to talk about that?
Sure.
Okay. I got plenty to say on that subject.
Before we get there, Diana, how about you? Have you thought about this?
I have. And it's weird that you asked, Lauren, because so my parents were entrepreneurs, but they actually came from a very poor country, South Korea. And we moved to the U.S. in 1974 when I was 5 years old. So, they had a very hard time, with all the businesses that they had because they self-funded everything and they were working, 15, 18-hour days just to get by and make enough money. They came from like pretty desperate times. And, my parents were held up in gunpoint multiple times while I was growing up running their convenience stores, their fish markets, or whatever they actually owned at the time. Many of the reasons were because they had to actually open it in pretty bad locations or locations where they can afford it. But obviously they weren't in the best places. Watching them throughout the years, they would come home and they would have a bag of cash afterwards because obviously they'd have to take the money out of the registers. And they would count the money, as soon as they got home. And then they'd count the coupons of what they actually had to apply everything to. And I watched it my whole life. And as many times that I could say, Lauren, that I said, I don't want to turn out like them, where I'm working 15-hour days, not sleeping much, working all the time and completely ignoring me or their child. I ended up repeating the same identical thing. But in a bigger way.
Tell us about that. When did you realize that you were repeating?
I started the business when I was 47 years old. So it was 5 years ago. I'm 52 now. And my kids were in high school then. So my husband had said to me, if you're going to actually build a business, you should do it now because our kids are in high school. They don't really want you around as much and they don't want to be controlled, Diana. So at the end, you're going to have a better relationship if you just go to work more. So I was like, okay, fine, I'll do it. And, because I'm a control freak, I wanted to make sure everybody's okay all the time. And I was, over controlling about what they ate, how they dressed, all of those things that I think, most mothers are with their children. And then as soon as I start the business, I am so over consumed. And now I have employees, I have people I have to support that I feel like they're my children as well. And I end up putting all this energy knowing that my kids want me to have less control of their lives. So that's how it all started. It was all for the benefit of them, to have a better relationship with them. The business starts doubling year over year. And I just get more and more sucked in, more and more consumed. Having 100 employees now, it's just every hour of my day has been consumed with work. So they recently all left for college. I have 2 freshman year, I have 1 in his senior year. And I just feel like I haven't been around for them at all for the last 4 or 5 years because of the business. And I feel guilty, but I ended up repeating the same thing my parents did for me.
Jay, you grew up in your father's dime store, and you've often credited that with that experience with helping you learn important lessons like, I know it's a very different kind of business, but you learned how to treat customers. Did your sons grow up working in your business at all?
No, not really. I mean, my business is in the city and my kids were in the suburbs. And back when I was a kid, I had to go to work on Saturdays because that was the big business day. And then during the holidays, I actually took off some time in high school. I took a couple of days out of high school to help out at the store because, it was Christmas rush. So, but my father was home every night at 6:45. I wouldn't say he was consumed by it. He worked 6 days a week. I grew up never seeing my father. My father worked 6 days a week. I also worked 6 days a week my whole life. And, I would say to people, there's that old story about there's no old person laying on their deathbed wishing they would have spent more time with their business. I tell everyone, that's not really the right parable. The right parable is the day they leave for college, that they're walking away from the car, you want to vomit and you say, oh my God, was I home enough? My kid's grown up. It's over.
Sounds like Diana just had that experience.
Well, yeah. And here's the difference though. See, when you're on your deathbed, you're going to be dead in a few days, a couple of days of suffering. Here, you get another 30 years, hopefully, to torture yourself over that you screwed up. So I warn people.
Well, if you screwed up.
Well, there's different levels of screwing up. I think this whole concept of balance when it comes to owning a business is laughable. I call it tolerable, tolerable sacrifice. I mean, I was home. I was home Sundays usually. Was I home enough? Not terrible. If I had it to all over again, I probably would have been home a little more. But the biggest thing I've learned, and of course I learned it too late, is I call it having alignment, meaning if you make a decision, I really want to be there for my kids a decent amount. Maybe you don't open that one extra store. Maybe you don't open that extra office. And I wasn't thinking about that. So I did, in fact, expand it probably bigger than I needed to. Entrepreneurship is intoxicating, and when you're not thinking about it and you think, oh, I'll take that vacation next year. This year I'm too busy. And then whoosh, your kids are out of the house. So, and I said this to you in particular, probably 5 years ago. I said, I'm way more successful than I thought I would be. I think if I would have worked 10% less, I would have been home more, and it would have been a better, outcome for being home with my kids. But then you said, yeah, and maybe you'd be broke.
You don't know that doing 10% less work means 10% less results.
Yeah, it's not necessarily a linear relationship. Maybe that 10% less work, maybe the business wouldn't have, who knows? So it's tricky.
Diana, would you do it differently if you had it to do over?
I don't think you can as a startup entrepreneur. There is no such word as work-life balance. If you want work-life balance, don't open up a business. That's what I would say, because it is going to consume you. And just like what Jay said, it's intoxicating. And what's crazy about it is it becomes more and more intoxicating every time that you're more successful. So whatever the goal is, the goal continues to just go higher and higher year over year. It's never good enough. And people around you say, say, oh, it's great, but at the end, can you get here? Can you get here? Well, the company would be worth so much more if you could get here. Well, if you went into another vertical, you'd actually have to do this. And for whatever reason, in so many ways, I feel like I'm a professional athlete. It's like good is never good enough. And at the end, they want you to perform. You're like a performance pretty much. And the goal always ends up changing to another level.
You feel that way even though you don't have investors or outsiders who are driving performance. That's all self-inflicted, obviously.
Self-inflicted, but there's always people that's making an evaluation of your company. I don't care who it is, because if you're successful, everybody is waiting for you to be more successful, and everybody is watching you. So we win whatever Inc. 5000, number 65, or we're fastest growing company, a woman led, number 10. I have Goldman Sachs contacting me nonstop. I have Morgan Stanley contacting me nonstop. I have JP Morgan contacting me nonstop. I have bankers. I have lawyers. Everybody wants to be your friend. And at the end of the day, they're watching to see what you do because they want to represent you. And it gets more and more intoxicating.
Can I help you with this? They don't want to be your friend. They want to make money off of you.
Of course, of course.
As I'm listening to you, I'm thinking unleash yourself, untether yourself from these people, because I just learned what you're saying doesn't really make any sense. People are watching you, so you need to keep pushing the business to a limit to where you're exhausted. I don't think so, and that's a difference between my age and your age. What you just said is all in your head. It's totally self. You've put this in your own head. What if you slowed your growth down just so you could have more time?
One, I don't think you and I think we're probably close in age. I'm 52. How old are you?
I'm 50. I'm 65.
Okay, so we're not that far apart.
No, but I've also been in business for 43 years.
Yes. So that is a big difference. I think for me, it has to do with the fact that I entered the type of industry that I entered into, right, which is technical. And then so there's a lot of fast growth in the technical industries. The multiples are through the roof when you actually do a technology business.
I'm sure.
And so it's not really all those people that pressure me. I don't feel any pressure from them. It's my employees that I feel the most pressure for.
All right. There's something to that. No, there's something to that. I give you that.
Yeah, it's not, I don't care about the bankers. I don't care, because at the end, they're basically kissing up to you to do business with you and make money off of you. It's the employees. They left whatever organization because of your vision that you promised for them.
All right, I give you that. I don't have that issue because I'm not a technology company. You've got a good point with that. I can only tell you, Lauren, you were there with me. We were at an Inc. conference 10 years ago, sitting at a table. There's a woman there who's maybe late 30s, 40, 6 months pregnant. She mentioned at dinner that she had been up in her room for the last 2 days, not at the conference, but she was up in her room doing proposals, and they're opening another office, and she's got 2 other kids at home, and she's in the middle of a divorce. And I just say to myself, that's not a good picture. Opening more offices, getting divorced, having her 3rd kid. How's that story working? I think that there's tens of thousands of people out there that are like that are just out of what I'm using the word out of alignment. Are they going to get what they want? And I've been looking at this for I've been asking people. I've been watching people in business groups, raising kids. Here was the one moment that really gave me some clarity. It was a long time ago. I was probably 34 or something, and there's a guy in the business group that's in technology, and he's going to Europe all the time, and he's got a custom-made Mercedes-Benz that he flew in from Germany that no one else has here, and he's this big hitter. And I'd gotten to know him a little bit. At that point, I just had my 3rd kid, and I was trying to figure out, how do you navigate this whole thing? So I say to him, is it difficult that you're going to Europe all the time and you're leaving your wife home with 4 kids and you're growing this business? And he turned to me and he said, quote unquote, I couldn't make this up. He goes, my children have eaten in the finest restaurants in the world. And I said to myself, you are really screwed up. And I didn't ask anything more. That's all I had to hear. So then 3-4 months later, there's the holiday party and the spouses were invited. And I happened to be standing there waiting for a drink at the bar with the wife. And I had to go back to the scene of the crime. I had to ask her. So I just said,
You had to ask her.
I had to ask her because I'm just fascinated by this whole thing. I said, is it hard, raising 4 kids when, your husband's, traveling a lot? And she looks at me stone cold and she goes, yeah, I'll tell you a story. A couple of months ago, my son dropped out of high school. This is in a very affluent area. Like, they probably don't have a lot of dropouts. My son dropped out of high school, and I had to put him into drug rehab. And when my husband got home, he was furious. He said, if I was home, this wouldn't have happened. Yeah, that's probably true. If he was home, it probably would.
It sounds like he didn't really realize what he was saying.
No, I don't even know that she realized when she said that to me. Like I said, I'm not the go-to writer. I couldn't write this stuff that well. And so I don't know where they all ended up. I just know there's a lot of really screwed up entrepreneurs out there, and most of them are in the magazines. Just read about their lives, and I don't want any part of that. So I've tried to navigate it.
So I think that what you're saying might be logical, but I would disagree with you on something. And this is it for me, is our business is not a me business. It's not about me. It doesn't even make any sense for me. Even if I own most of the shares of the business, it's not me. It's a we business. So for us, it's whether we all make it. And everybody is basically striving for the evaluation of the company. Everybody wants that. And at the end, I have to deliver that experience, period. And so when you get sucked into this type of situation, and it's not a me business, I don't own 100%. I've got to deliver it for the employees that actually own percentages of the business.
Wait, now that part I didn't know anything about. Walk us, because that's totally different than my situation. How much of the business do you own compared to these other people?
So we have what's called equity rights, Jay. So equity rights basically means that you have equity rights that you've given your employees, but they have no ownership interest at a percentage level, as stock. So if there is basically a future transaction, then they would get a percentage of whatever the equity rights were, and then I would dilute and my partner would dilute based on the equity rights. So 20% of our business is owned by our employees through equity rights. So they don't actually have voting power, but they actually have the rights to the stock.
Wait, and I didn't know you had a partner. That's all news to me. And so at the end of the day, how much of this is you and how much is this everyone else? Because that's news to me. I thought you owned 100%.
So I have a partner. He's 20 years younger than I am. And I met him on LinkedIn. And it's a funny story because I had to deliver a social media campaign for Pfizer Pharmaceuticals about 7 or 8 years ago prior to launching Constellation. And being 52, what do I know about technology? How am I going to launch a campaign like this? I'm just a good salesperson. So I end up selling. And by that time, I had to actually execute this thing. So I went on LinkedIn and tried to find a social strategist and found Matt. And he is a social strategist for Ogilvy and Mathers at Social Labs. He was the number one employee that actually got hired at Social Labs in New York after they acquired Social Labs. Omnicom acquired Social Labs. So he ends up running and executing this campaign. And I realize that there's all these things that are happening technologically that I've missed. But I understand clients and I understand how to sell and I understand operations. That's my strength. So I said, why don't you partner with me to launch Constellation Agency? And that was the birth of Constellation. So that was 5 years ago. I did it with a complete stranger. I know that sounds really weird. And he always says, I think I got struck by lightning. Diana, I got struck by lightning. Nobody walks into your life and basically offers you equity of something and then blows it out of the water. And, you end up becoming a millionaire overnight. And that's pretty much what happened to Matt. So Matt is 32. I'm 52. He owns, obviously I own majority share and he owns minority shares.
Okay, so when you say you disagree with me, that's not really accurate. You're in a very different situation than I'm in. I have no partners. I don't have anybody who's counting on me selling the company and retiring. So we're just this is typical in entrepreneurship. People are in very different situations. In your situation, you've done a good job of explaining why you're in that situation. I get it. So in your situation, I understand that you do have expectations to meet for other people. I don't. So it's just different.
Right, but you're in a very different but lucky situation. So all I'm saying is you can't judge other people based on their circumstances because they could be in a very difficult situation.
Yeah, for sure. I'm not judging anybody. I'm telling you my own story.
Diana, you kind of said you in some ways you've already blown it out of the water, but you're concerned about not hitting valuations and the impact that would have on your employees. You've already done so well. What's the scenario that concerns you? What are you afraid could happen?
So as an entrepreneur, and this is the analogy that I usually make, is I always feel like I'm going into a boxing ring. I'm the boxer, and there's going to be a fighter that comes in, and every day it's a different fight. Every month it's a different fight. So Delta variant, COVID, chip shortage in the auto industry, data restrictions, cookieless future, iOS 14 changes. I don't care what it is. Every year there's something that I can't predict that basically happens. So when I put an evaluation of what we're going to do and a prediction of what we're going to do, something always goes wrong. I don't care what it is. In the 5 years, there's never been a year where basically everything went the way it was supposed to. And so in this, it's like the fighter comes in. I've got to basically punch and pivot, and I can't get knocked out. That's how I believe. But I know there's going to be another fight. Another boxer is coming into the ring to take me out, whether it's this year, next year, or whatever. And I got to figure out a way to stay in the battle, not get knocked out, and still win that round. That's how I feel.
I see. So just to tie up this conversation about parenting, it occurs to me listening to the two of you that I might have started with the wrong question. I asked you, can an entrepreneur raise an entrepreneur? Maybe the first question should have been, do you care if you raise entrepreneurs or not? Is that something that's important to you? Does it matter? Jay, what do you think?
I want to have happy kids, and I'm not about to put that responsibility on anybody. I want to have happy kids. If they want to be an entrepreneur, great. If they want to go teach school, great. If they want to become an accountant, great. I just want happy kids. And I take back what I said. I'm not judging anyone. I am judging someone. I'm going to judge someone who grows the business at the expense of their children and leaves this world with some really messed up kids, which I've seen close up, and it's horrible. And I say, if you don't want to pay attention to your kids and you want to just go to work and rationalize that I'm just making a living and never be home, don't have kids. Do yourself a favor. Do the kids a favor. It's not easy being an entrepreneur. I'm not saying you're supposed to be home every Saturday and Sunday, be home at 5 o'clock for dinner. I'm saying that there are some people who absolutely are they're workaholics in the true definition of a workaholic. They're never home. They leave their spouse with the kids if they have a spouse left. And it's pretty brutal. And I just think for the children of the world, they deserve to have a parent that's around at least some. I mean, enough, whatever the word enough is. I don't know what that is. But it's not an easy trip. And it's difficult. And I, by no means, I understand in the startup phase, there are absolutely times where you just have to stay at work. I get it. I mean, you have to. You can't just go, I'm out of here. It's not that simple. It's a difficult, and in my case, my wife was home with the kids, so it worked. If I had a working wife, I don't know that I could have done what I did.
Diana, do you care if your kids are entrepreneurial?
No, I feel that part I agree with Jay, is that I want my kids to be happy, and whatever their passion is what I've always said. You know, it never feels like work to me because I am passionate about what I do, and I want them to find what their passions are in life, whatever it may be. So that part I completely agree with Jay.
All right. I want to change topics. I want to talk a little bit about the car industry, which happens to be the industry, Diana, that you built your business on. But first, we're going to take a quick break to hear from our sponsor, Work Better Now, which connects entrepreneurs like you guys with virtual assistants. Okay, I'm here with Rob Levin, who is co-founder of Work Better Now, which provides business owners with virtual assistants. How's it work, Rob?
You know as well as anybody, Lauren, that the pace of change in business has never been faster. Today's business owner has more to do than ever. And if you don't focus on important stuff like business development and your next product and service and customer experience and your team, it's impossible to keep up, much less to grow your business. An assistant can do the one thing that everybody thought was impossible to do, which is to give you more time in your day by taking all of the administrative tasks off of your plate.
How much does it cost?
It's $1,750 for a full-time dedicated assistant. And fellow listeners of the 21 Hats podcast can save $150 for the first 3 months by mentioning the word Lauren.
All right. To learn more, workbetternow.com.
That's it, workbetternow.com.
And we're back. Diana, you did build your business by helping car dealers with their marketing. But right now, between Tesla and the pandemic and the inability to get cars because there are no computer chips, that industry is truly in turmoil. So first question, is that a problem for you?
Oh, yeah, that's totally a problem for me. That's one of the boxers that's come into the ring.
Gotcha.
And mainly because the auto dealerships are having an all-time gross high, meaning they could make the most amount of money on a car that they've never been able to do in the last 25 years because there's such a shortage of vehicles right now. And so why would they advertise, right? Why does anybody want to market? There are no incentives. There's no manufacturers that are basically coming out and say, oh, you got $3,000 rebate. No such a thing. They don't have to put a rebate. Dealerships have 2 cars on the lot right now on new, so they don't have to put any incentives on. So why would you ever have to advertise right now? So think about the entire marketing side of auto. It's pretty much taking a hit pretty bad.
I actually went out to buy a car, and they're asking $3,000. They call it a market adjustment. And yeah, to your point, I've never seen anyone get away with that, but they are. And I just decided, okay, we'll just wait until that catches up because I'm not paying $3,000. Now, if I had to, I guess you have no choice, but I do have a choice.
Diana, I get your point about there not being a need for them to market right now, but some of them are facing an existential crisis. I mean, a lot of dealers are selling to larger dealer groups or...
Oh, yes. Oh, yeah. Yep.
Because they're not sure they can make it in the new world, especially with more manufacturers planning on selling direct and with everybody moving towards selling online, especially since the pandemic. Can you help with that?
So this is the interesting thing right now, Lauren, that's happening in the auto industry. It's being disrupted right now. So you've got the electric vehicles, you got Rivian, Polestar, Lucent, you have Tesla that all can sell direct to consumers right from the website. So you can go on any of those websites and buy a car and they'll ship it to you and they'll arrive in 6 weeks. All the traditional automakers in this country have basically a law here that says that you cannot sell a car directly to consumers. In the U.S., all of the traditional automakers, the 25 of them, so these are like Toyota, General Motors, Ford, so on and so forth, all have to sell a car through franchises. And so because of this law, they cannot sell direct to consumer. This is a big problem. So now the OEMs, the traditional automakers, are now having to deal with this dilemma that they have to sell it through a franchise. And because of that, marketing is becoming very, very ineffective. Why? Because in the traditional way, you go on any automaker website. Let's say it's Audi. You go on Audi.com. You can't buy a car. You got to go to Audi.com, then AudiOffers.com, which is based on the region. Then you got to find a dealer that actually has the inventory, but you're the one that actually has to do all the work to find out whether the dealer has the inventory or not. You go on Tesla, you can find the inventory and you can purchase it right then and there. So because of that, that part of it is being completely disrupted. But the other part that, Lauren, that you're saying is this is an opportunity for COVID, and I know that this is going to sound really crazy, but I believe this is a way for automakers to choke off the franchises. They don't, in the end, they're the ones that decide whether they want to give actually inventory to the franchises. If they don't want to give the inventory to the franchises will die. So, you have this chip shortage. How much of it is going to affect which franchise that they're going to actually give the inventory to and which ones they won't give the inventory to. And the ones that don't get the inventory better sell ASAP, because the franchise markets are going to diminish in the U.S. It's going to get smaller, smaller, and smaller, and to some point that I believe the automakers is going to make a point to try to overturn that law to sell to franchises. I believe that's going to happen.
So does all that mean that you're no longer going to be able to rely on the car industry for the bulk of your business?
No, so because of the innovation that we have, we're able to actually go and work with the automakers, but we can also work with the agencies of record as well as the franchise markets. So we can position many different ways. And so we definitely have done that, which has helped us a lot. In addition to that, 30% of my business is D2C, direct to consumer brands. And that side keeps growing. So even though the auto side has been terrible this year, the other side has made up for the side that I wasn't able to get.
Next topic. It's been about a week now since President Biden announced his vaccine and testing mandate, which applies to all businesses with more than 100 employees, 100 or more. And both of you fall into that category. You've had a little bit of time to think about it. I'm wondering what impact you think this is going to have.
I'm trying not to think. That's my new thing. I'm trying to just not think. I'm just waiting to see how it flushes out. I mean, almost everybody who works for me in the retail side in the offices is vaccinated. The people that I have working in the factory, numerous people there are not vaccinated. They're all wearing masks. And I don't know. Are we going to lose any people? I've got some really long-term people that really don't want to do it. So
is that your biggest concern? Because I know some business owners are very happy about this in the sense that they want their people to be vaccinated and they're happy to have Joe Biden be the bad guy in this scenario and they don't have to mandate it because he did. What's your concern?
I don't know. My concern is that a few people quit, and I've got some people.
Your concern is losing people.
Yeah, and I've got people one guy's been here for 20 years, and he's very valuable.
Do you have reason to believe he will in fact quit?
I really have not. I decided at this stage I did not want to interrogate anybody, but I did just say to him, "Hey, listen, is there any chance you're going to get a vaccination?" He said no. Now that was before the mandate thing. That was about a month ago. So I don't know.
How are you thinking about it, Diana?
Yeah, so in New York City, it's impossible to go anywhere indoors without actually a vaccination card. So they've mandated it. It's the law here to actually be vaccinated.
Even in a store?
In a restaurant, not necessarily a store, but if you want to eat in a restaurant, you have to show your vaccination card.
Boy, it's not like that here.
Yeah. So here, I mandated vaccinations a little over a month ago. And it was because I was moving into the new space. I signed the lease. Shortly after that, I find out that One World Trade Center has also mandated vaccinations. They were one of the first to do it in New York City. And so once I found that out, I realized I have this incredibly giant space. And now I can't bring my employees in unless they're vaccinated. And so that was super depressing for me. So at that moment, I mandated vaccinations because I needed them to come back to office. So they come back Monday, Tuesday, and Thursday.
How did they respond?
Only one quit. And I mean, amazingly, because they were so excited about the new space and how beautiful and everything it was, that it was a complete distraction. And so for them, I had almost everybody vaccinate. I had about 4 people in total that was going back and forth. One person quit. The other 3 didn't vaccinate because of me, but they vaccinated because of the new office space. They said they love the office and they're coming to the new office no matter what. And so they vaccinated.
So the one that quit, did anybody have, what was the reasoning why they quit? I mean, did you know?
So they spoke to our HR team, and they apparently, she had mentioned that she felt very uncomfortable about getting vaccinated. She was scared about what was inside the vaccine. She was very, very skeptical in terms of whether we had enough scientific proof, whether it was safe or not. So that was her biggest fear, I think.
So, Diana, it sounds like the president's mandate will have no impact on you whatsoever. You're not going to have to test anybody or anything. But Jay, you may have to test some people. Have you thought about how that would work?
I'm waiting to see what they're saying. Are they going to pay for this?
No.
Did you hear? Is that a fact? Did that come out? Because up till now, I've been told they haven't come out with the details yet. That's what I was told.
Yeah, but I think it doesn't make any sense, right? Like if they really want you to vaccinate, they're going to make it super painful if you don't. So they're going to make it inconvenient. They're going to make it costly. They're going to make sure that, the person is going to try to pay for most of it. And I believe that's probably where it's headed.
That's actually what you're describing, what Delta Airlines did. They added a $200 a month health insurance supplement for people who aren't vaccinated. And apparently it did prompt a lot of those people to go and get vaccinated.
Exactly.
Wait, walk through that.
Delta is charging unvaccinated employees a $200 a month surcharge for health insurance because their costs are higher from people getting sick. And that is having the intended effect of encouraging a lot of those people to go ahead and get vaccinated.
And I think that's right, because at the end, the business owner actually ends up having to pay for a lot of the health insurance. And so because of that, the health policies are going to go higher.
That's a slippery slope. So then if that makes sense, should they be charging $200 a month for people that smoke?
People do.
Do they?
That exists.
Oh, I didn't know that.
We're just about out of time. I want to do one more thing real quickly. I would be remiss if I did not follow up with you, Jay. Last time you were here, you told us a completely bizarre story about your dealings with your phone carrier, AT&T. They had managed to overbill you by, I think you said, between $80,000 and $100,000.
Yeah, it was a six-figure number, yeah.
And they were telling you they would work it out, but ultimately you had to go to arbitration and they forced you to eat a percentage of it.
Not a lot. I think they refunded 90%.
Well, still.
But I still, right, no, believe me, didn't feel good.
Well, not contesting the fact that they had just, double billed you, overcharged you for it. And you ended it by telling us that it was happening again and that they were threatening to shut down your phone service.
No, they didn't threaten to shut it down. They shut it off. My phones got shut off one day.
So have you sorted this out? Where do we stand?
This time they've got a manager on it. They swear the credit's coming, and we just sit tight, and they know about the other thing. The part that I didn't fully understand when you asked me last time, and I don't know that I give a thorough answer. Your question was, why not just change phone carriers?
Yeah, why are you still using these?
You got to understand, I've got my showroom, my offices in Lincoln Park, an upscale part of Chicago. And then I got the factory warehouse in a lower income area that doesn't have as much fiber optics. It doesn't have the attention they get in this, where I'm at here. And we've tried to go to Comcast and it fails. So whether it's because of copper wires or infrastructure, there's some reason why we need to use AT&T because we did try to leave them. But
are you sure?
No, believe me, nothing would make me happier. But we're stuck, and I kind of am sleeping at night. This is just got a manager on it. They're giving us the refund. Asked me in a month.
Diane, have you ever heard anything like that?
I've never. I probably would lose it.
It's funny you say that. I said, if I wasn't doing this for so long, I would have lost it. It's just like, I've kind of gotten used to it is what it is. Like I would have gone ballistic 30 years ago, but like, what am I going to do about it? So it is what it is.
My thanks to Jay Goltz and Diana Lee. As always, thanks for sharing, guys. And here it is, your Marketing Minute with Steve Krull has been found online. Here's today's question, Steve. How can I get more qualified leads?
Wow, there's a complicated answer here, but I'm going to try and simplify it. To get more qualified leads, and I did a webinar on this just recently for Be Found Online, is to look at your personas and evolve your personas to the point where you're asking more questions about your customers. What keeps them up at night? What problems they're trying to solve? If you can get to thinking about those questions and answering those questions for yourself in the personas, and then evolving your content to include the answers to some of those questions so you're speaking to your customers more directly about their true needs versus simply sell, 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 you're going to be closing the gap by what you want to do, which is sell, and what they want to do, which is buy. And I'm here to tell you that buy and sell, despite the fact that you think they're the same, they're not. There's a gap in between that you need to fill with quality content.
If you want more details, look for Steve's Marketing Minute blog post at 21hats.com. Wait, don't leave yet. If you have a question or a comment that you'd like the 21 Hats owners to address, send it to me by replying to your morning report or by email at lauren@21hats.com. That's LOREN @21hats.com. Do it now before you forget, and don't be afraid to tell Jay what you really think. He can take it. And if you got something out of this conversation, help us reach more business owners. Tell a friend. Subscribe and review us wherever you get your podcasts. Follow us on Twitter. Subscribe to the Morning Report at 21hats.com. This episode was produced by Jess Thuberon, founder of Blank Word Productions. Okay, now you can leave. Thanks for listening, everyone.